Welcome to the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com as part of your Wrestling Wednesday card. I'm your host, Michael Davis. We're back after 2 weeks to discuss everything that's gone down since. Collision debuts with CM Punk, perhaps confirming it was a shoot all along. The Bloodline in shambles, and they're broken out into a civil war. Then we have Forbidden Door with 4 dream matches announced for this Sunday. Hopefully more to come. Welcome back to the show, Shannon Smith, as he joins me right now on Drop the Mic. Shannon, what's up, my guy?
Oh, 2 weeks away, man. I think we'll be fine today, but I'm feeling good, man.
Dude, it's been a while. I've missed you.
Oh man, me too, man.
This goes without saying. Some of the most fun moments I've had with doing Tobacco Road stuff, whether it's with you or my other guests, on Drop the Mic, Out of Pocket, Cat Cave with Ryan. It's always the conversations like before and after just makes your day. And I really appreciate you, and so glad Dooley's exists.
Oh man, I know. I mean, it wouldn't never happen either way, but it would have happened somehow, some way in a different spot.
God has a way of doing that stuff. So it's pretty awesome to have you back and get and talk wrestling, and we have a lot to talk about. So the Monday Nitro looking AEW Collision logo debuted on Saturday with Elton John. Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. Not a bad intro, nothing like I really enjoyed the episode. CM Punk opened up the show with a promo, had some really good matches, ended with the 6-man tag with CM Punk and FTR facing Bullet Club Gold and Samoa Joe. Shannon, what was your overall thoughts on the show? We'll break it down a little bit more in terms of the promo, the matches, but what just the overall show, the feel, the vibe, the presentation. What were your thoughts on AEW Collision's debut Saturday night on TNT?
I was very impressed. It didn't. I remember when I was a big fan of wrestling when I was smaller. WCW had WCW Saturday Night. Wasn't a big carded show. It was an hour long. You had your lower guys. It was kind of like an AEW Dark, kind of like before AEW Dark existed. You had maybe a few marquee guys on the card, and it wasn't like your biggest show. It wasn't your biggest draw. It wasn't Monday Nitro. But what I thought this show was like WWF Saturday Night main event is what I thought that was like. You had big names in there. You had a lot of good matches. The card was pretty stacked. You didn't have your lower card guys on that show. I mean, of course, you start with CM Punk, very polarizing name in wrestling. You have a squash match, of course. You gotta have a squash match, and Miro's squash match was there. So you got to have a squash match, show the dominance. The main event was a star-studded main event. It was very well put together. The show followed itself, very good 2 hours, man. I was very impressed. It wasn't a lackluster show because you know how wrestling promotions kind of have that show that's kind of like, okay, we've got this show and then this show, and that just comes on. Collision didn't feel like that. Yes, we know the nuances and similarities, the Monday Nitro in the animation, but it was a great show. Very, very impressed.
Obviously, it did feel like WCW Monday Nitro. It also kind of felt like a 03 Monday Night Raw, where it opened up with a promo. That guy goes on to wrestle the main event. You open up with Luchasaurus Wardlow for the TNT title. Yes, Luchasaurus reminds me of that Kane, just more athletic. Yes. It's like an Evolve. Luchasaurus is like the next Pokemon from that Kane and back in 03.
Yes.
He wins the TNT title, and Christian's on Luchasaurus's shoulders, celebrating with not his TNT title. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, just like little stuff, the squash match with Miro, Andrade Buddy, like that was a great match.
Very good.
I mean, and the only like takeaways where I'm like, man, you could have done something a lot better. I didn't see a point in the Acclaims promo rather than just them making a 3-minute appearance. Like that was like, meh, what a time filler.
Yeah.
And then the production aspect needs to be fixed a little bit. There's some growing pains right there. There was a moment where it was picture in picture in the main event, and Dax and Samoa Joe are chopping each other, and you're not hearing it because it's picture in picture. That was the worst timing of all time. Thankfully, Dax put it on his Twitter like with the audio. I'm like, okay, thank goodness.
Yeah.
We got something.
And no sell. And no sell either. That was another thing also too. Joe didn't sell it. And I was like, oh man, oh man. But that was put together. It was put together very well. But I believe what you're saying with the production. One thing that you brought up that I really liked is when you said that, you know, AEW has lived off pops.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically, you know, beginning with CM Punk, you know, the huge pop. CM Punk, of course, last time he was in Chicago was on a Friday night and got probably the biggest pop in all of wrestling that year. When that happened, once again, had the same effect. Saturday evening, huge pop. So I think that's what AEW was coming off of. A lot of pops, fan reactions, what's next, the This Is Awesomes. That's what they're living off of. And that's okay. And that's great.
Yeah, I would say so. And especially like I was waiting for one big moment to happen. And I don't remember it happening, but it was still like a solid show.
Yes.
I mean, it was a really, really solid show. I'm very interested to see how it does moving forward, but we can't move forward without talking about that CM Punk promo because it opened up a couple things. Like he comes out and he really does feel like he picked up where he left off.
Yes.
He's like, tell me when I'm telling lies.
Yeah.
Tell me when I'm telling lies. And he's just dropping, you know, shots at the Young Bucks. He's dropping, you know, shots all around and saying that he was the reason that AEW's hopefully getting this Warren Bros. Like $1 billion deal as one Bill Feel. Not a lot of people caught on to that at the beginning. I had to do a little bit of research, like, well, what's going on there? And then he's carrying around this red bag as like, oh, I never lost this title. Somebody's got me beat for it, even though he was stripped of it because he was suspended along with the Elite. Like, there's so much to unpack here. I don't know how much of this was scripted, but Tony Khan's been a mastermind. Is he just like pulling all the puppet strings right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what did it for me, what Punk's promo was the counterfeit bucks. It was that saying. When he said counterfeit bucks, I went to my Facebook, my Twitter, and was like, counterfeit bucks, wow. You can't sit around here and think for 1 minute that CM Punk is not pointing fingers at everybody who's running AEW right now. But you know, Tony Khan is definitely playing that puppet master right now. This has got to be a work. You can say what you want. You can. I would have to say 90% of it has to be a work. Has to be. I mean, they might be getting ready for this brand split somehow. They're probably getting ready for the title to be changed over. Once again, that red bag did it. And of course, who's the champion right now? MJF. But I don't know what you're going to do with that aspect yet, because Punk right now was obviously a heel with this being a work. How they're going to change MJF over, because MJF is kind of, to me, like the $1 Million Man is. Playing him as a face, I don't know. He's such a great heel. And I don't want to turn him face. It's not fun. Guys like him are guys that, like, okay, he's a heel and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, Punk, on the other hand, is a heel that the fans love. And that's going to be hard to do. So Tony Khan might have his work cut out for him a little bit more now that he's got the likable heel and the heel that everyone absolutely hates, and he's doing a very good job of that. I don't know. I mean, I think that, with what Punk's saying makes him a heel, but for the fans, he's the El de facto face.
Yeah, I don't see him getting booed pretty much anywhere, especially in Chicago. Like,
no.
You have that debut for CM Punk to get cheered, to get that pop.
Yes.
Or else you have it literally anywhere else in the world.
Right.
And then you're like, I don't know how this is going to go, or fans going to receive him well. But especially the timetable of him coming back from his injury, coming back with the title in hand, mentioning the Bucks, because if you think about it, they haven't really mentioned each other anywhere, right? There was a rumor going around that CM Punk was intense for Monday Night Raw, going up and apologizing to people, like trying to apologize to The Miz, Triple H, and he cuts the promo on Saturday saying he doesn't apologize to anybody. And he's sorry that all the fans like soft wrestlers, even though that got a pop from the fans in attendance. Like,
exactly.
Fans aren't going to boo him.
No.
But man, this was such a work, and it's beautifully crafted. I can pretty much say I'm like 93% sure it's a work.
Oh yeah,
with that 7%, like maybe
it's in the 90s, man. When he made nuances to his injury, and that was another thing, because you even said it yourself. This is in time for his healing to be complete and being released from the doctors and back into competition. So that is another thing that you got to take under consideration. He was out for a little bit with his injury. Then he comes back after being told he's suspended, but the timetable somehow matches when he's released by the doctors. Kind of like with the Houston Texans and Houston Texans, when Deshaun Watson decided to make his NFL comeback against his old squad with his new squad. Week 11, an odd number. Ain't no way. You can't sit here and tell me that this is a coincidence. It's not.
It's not. So
in Chicago too. It's not.
So do you think we end up seeing Punk and FTR versus Omega and the Bucks down the line?
Yes. I would not rule that out. And I think FTR might be turning heel.
I love FTR though.
I know. Listen, I know.
They're such good faces.
They are. They're very, very well, but you can't sleep on them being heels when they were, in the WWE, although the booking was not good. Once again, the booking was not good having them as a heel. And of course, with all the stuff they were doing with being the Elite at that time, where the Elite were throwing complete shots at them while they were in WWE. Hence the name change going to AEW in correlation with these guys, which I thought was really cool from the get-go, because it was only a matter of time before they squared off in the ring anyway. It was going to happen with all the shots being taken, being the best tag team in the world, and then the Bucks, having crowds all over saying, F the Revival. So, you got to be sitting here seeing that. Then, of course, Punk going against the establishment, Kenny having a stake with the Young Bucks in All Elite Wrestling. It's the perfect storm. It's the perfect storm. And Tony Khan did a wonderful job. Hats off to him. Let's see how long he keeps it going.
Now, thank you for keeping the show PG with that reference right there.
I've been there before.
But Tony Khan was pretty masterful with this card too. Yes. I mean, Mirror's return, we talked about that squash. We talked about a little bit of the 6-man tag at the end. Andrade versus Buddy. that
was good.
That was a slight shot at WWE.
Yes.
Andrade, Charlotte's husband.
Yes.
I think they're married now.
Yeah. Oh, they are.
Officially. And then Buddy Matthews dating Rhea Ripley. Charlotte faced Rhea at WrestleMania this past year.
Yes.
Andrade facing Buddy. I mean, come on, man. And they used both their finishing submission holds. And Andrade won with the figure 8.
Yes. Connect the dots. You got to connect the dots. Tony Khan has been sitting back, relaxing, but he's not been sleeping. Just because he's laid back doesn't mean he's asleep. He's connecting dots, and if you got to be a real wrestling fan, a true wrestling fan, in order to connect these dots somehow, some way. Because to the fan that's on the outside looking in, you don't know what you're seeing. But if you've been following wrestling for quite some time, you would be sitting back here saying, "I see what you did there."
Well, I feel so bad because I missed the Buddy nod to Rhea.
Yes.
At the original start.
I had to rewind it back.
I had to rewind it, yeah.
Yes.
And then, especially with like Andrade, when he got the figure 8, I'm like, oh, that's Charlotte's move.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Did I? And sure enough, it was a really good spot. But the question is, as good as the debut was, Saturday night's going to be tough.
It is.
And especially here in a couple months when we get college football going on Saturday nights, viewership is probably going to tank tremendously.
Absolutely.
Do you think it's a good idea to stay on Saturday nights?
You would probably, if you're going to stay on Saturday nights, you might want to have a lackluster show, because you got to pick your poison. Do you want it on Sunday with Sunday Night Football? Ain't no way. Ain't no way. They might bring it back annually, maybe for when you have the slower sports season. There's a lot of baseball on at this time, and there's a lot of games going on. No disrespect to baseball, but you would be more apt to survive this type of atmosphere than you would in the fall, than you would in the winter. Good luck. So, I mean, I hate to be that way, but Saturday, you got to pick your poison. I think they're okay on Saturday. It's not good, but it's not bad.
We'll have to see how it goes moving forward with AEW Collision. I will definitely be tuning in and might even try to get Greensboro tickets in August. Who knows? We'll see how everything goes. But we can switch gears from AEW to WWE. We'll be back talking AEW's pay-per-view this Sunday night, Forbidden Door. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But I wanted to touch on WWE.
Let's go.
And there's no mistake. Like, most of what we've talked about is WWE, AEW, just because of all the stuff going on. And WWE had a huge period between WrestleMania and everything following suit with that. But WWE is still putting on perhaps the greatest story of all time right now.
Yes.
And that is the Bloodline. 3 years. And people always make the running joke on social media, oh, long-term storytelling, long-term booking. That is what the Bloodline is.
Yeah.
They did this for 3 years. And I remember when Roman Reigns was challenging Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman for the Universal title, and there was a report out, I believe by Dave Meltzer, and was like, Roman Reigns is not dropping this title anytime soon. And you read that and you're like, okay, a year, 2, maybe. But now it's 2023 and he's going on 3 years. He's over 1,000 days. But he's been able to establish wrestlers alongside him. Yep. The Usos have been elevated. Sami Zayn elevated. Kevin Owens elevated. The list goes on and on and on to eventually to the person who eventually beats him is going to be elevated because of it.
Oh, yeah.
And this past week, we saw how big the Usos have gotten and how much the fans care about them when Jey Uso said, Jimmy, you're out. And I'm out too. And he super kicks Roman. Roman being the guy who always gets betrayed by, people close to him. It stings for him. But Shannon, I want to know your thoughts on the Usos leaving the Bloodline as of this past Friday's segment.
Couldn't have been timed any better. I think that they timed this perfectly. In time for Money in the Bank, in time for SummerSlam. They couldn't have timed this any better. Long-term storytelling from what everybody is saying. I'm seeming to remember a long-time storytelling from ECW when Tommy Dreamer and Raven went on for almost 5 years. And it kept getting better on top of that, too, because in between, Tammy was involved. The ECW championship was involved. So many things were involved. You've got a lot of parameters involved in this. You've got family against each other. Once again, you talking about wrestlers being elevated, which I didn't think of until you brought that up about how big Sami Zayn has became. Sami Zayn went from being a guy that used to have the Intercontinental Championship and nowhere to really go until he went with the Bloodline, and then the Bloodline turned and then won the Tag Team Championships with his homeboy Kevin Owens.
At WrestleMania, in the main event.
Yes, exactly.
That's the first time the tag titles have ever been defended in the main event of WrestleMania.
Bingo. There you go.
Because of Roman.
Exactly. And that's another thing also, too. So when all this started coming up, when AEW was being established at that time, there's going to be competition with WWE now. So WWE is going to have to be forced to step their game up because of the lackluster wrestling they've been putting out for the past 5 to 6 years. Look at what they're doing. Vince McMahon was taking notes. Triple H was taking notes. It's more Triple H than anything. Let's just be honest. But the fact of the matter is, WWE has stepped their game up, and look what happened. You're getting probably one of the best singles champions in the past 5 years in Roman Reigns. Who would have thought that? If you would have told me that a few years back, I'd have laughed in your face and said, they're trying to push Roman Reigns because of Vince McMahon's man crush on him. Now Roman Reigns is looking at a lot of people and saying, you're going to have to step your game up because of me and my family. And there you have it. I mean, and the way that they've done this, they've not done this through who knows who. The fans have kind of had their love-hate relationship with Roman Reigns over the years with how he's been booked Raw and how he's had a Raw deal with booking, how he has not been as entertaining as some of your champions have been over the years, when it's obvious that Vince McMahon wants this guy to be the face of the company, but yet he wasn't ready to be the face of that company until now. And now the fact that he's doing it and bringing people along with him, you got to give credit where credit is due. They're throwing hands with some of the best that the wrestling world has to offer, and they're doing a wonderful job.
And he wasn't even in the right character when they were wanting him to get pushed. Like, this evolution of Roman Reigns is above and beyond what we could have imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done that for the Usos, to where people will go and hear that the Usos are in the main event of Night 1 at WrestleMania and not turn off the TV.
Yes.
They'll hear that the Usos and Solo Sikoa's in the main event at Money in the Bank, and they won't turn off the TV. Why? Because Roman Reigns has made all three of those guys credible, to where Roman, there's rumors about him going to Hollywood. There's rumors about, how long he'll be doing this. I mean, like, if you have this big of a title reign, why do you stick around 5-10 more years? There's no reason to do that. But what you do instead is you just build up other guys around you, and Roman's literally the tribal chief. He's the head of the table, and he's making sure that the Usos and Solo eat after Roman Reigns leaves the WWE.
And the Hollywood thing that you brought up right there, how many times did they say that about Batista and John Cena and all those guys, although Batista made the jump quicker because of age, let's just be honest, it was because of age. But you're absolutely right. He's making sure that everybody around him is eating and making sure everybody around him is going to be fine when he's gone. Yeah, the rumors of him going to Hollywood, can you blame him with the body of work that he's put in as a wrestler? Can you blame him? Can you blame The Rock for doing it? Can you blame John Cena for doing it? Can you blame Dave Batista for doing it? Can you blame any of these guys for doing this with the body of work that they put in? We all know that they're not going to, we're not, and I'm not going to say this era is dead, but no one's going to be Ric Flair. We're done with that now. That's over with. You know, we're not going to have a man wrestling until he's 70, 80 years old. It's not going to happen. And that's not bad. And that's not bad. These guys are realizing their potential elsewhere. But while they're here, they're making the sport relevant again. We're in an age right now when you and I have talked about this, and I'm pretty sure every wrestling fan, every diehard out there that sat through 2000 through 2010 when wrestling was not really as big as it was in 1996 because of all this stuff that has been, because of all the things that's transpiring, you know, with the sale of WCW, with Impact Wrestling falling on its face, with New Japan going in and taking almost all of the wrestling fans over to the Far East because the wrestling was 10 times better than what we saw in America. When all that was going on, we're now in an age where we can watch more wrestling now than what we could watch 12 and 13 and 15 years ago. And it's quality stuff.
Did I just hear you say that 2010 was not as good as wrestling was back in 1996?
It was lackluster.
So are you saying, Shannon, that you want the Attitude Era back?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it was lackluster. The old fan of me, I'm telling you, I'm not going to be the grumpy old fan, because I might do a segment where I'm the grumpy old fan and showing you how stupid it is to say this stuff. You never know, it might happen, but I might be the grumpy old fan that's going to sit around here and wish to God that HBK would come out of retirement for the 14th time and not have a good match. I'm not going to be one. I'm going to be one of those type of fans and tell you how stupid it is and how you should enjoy people like Bryan Danielson, how you should enjoy people like Austin Theory, how you should enjoy people like Gunther. These guys that are bringing this sport back to what it was because they're putting more quality, more oomph, more storytelling, more compelling moments than what we had. Give these young guys their due, because these guys are doing it right now when the older guys when Hulk Hogan and them almost ripped wrestling apart because it was a power struggle of who was better, and you're way past your prime, but you're going to squash people like Chris Jericho, who had to pretty much merely scratch and claw to get where he's at, and now Chris Jericho, look where he is.
One of the GOATs, easily. But
you'll cripple a career like that so that your career can stay well when you were past your prime 20 years ago. Stupid.
Well,
and that's why it falls on the face. That's why.
Thankfully, some of the WCW powers didn't squash the Chris Jericho that we've gotten to know over the last several years. I don't know. And I think time will tell if like the Bloodline's officially over as we know it. And we might be those grumpy old fans of like, man, we just get the Bloodline to reunite one more time and do like one of these like weird reunions. But that'll be able to be determined at Money in the Bank. Speaking of Money in the Bank, there was an addition to the ladder match, and I am livid for several reasons. One of them, I made a bet, and I may not win this bet now, and I might not be able to host my own show with a little insider Matt Cosgrove instead. Secondly, this was going to be the one Money in the Bank ladder match, that we didn't have former world champions, that we didn't have all-stars, that we could actually elevate a guy. Now that we have 2 world titles and they can actually go and cash in on Raw's world heavyweight title. But instead, they throw in this punk, not named CM, but his initials are LP. And I could do so many variations for LP.
Oh, man.
Little pest. Logan Paul is in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and I hope this is just for giggles and, hey, he might win the Money in the Bank briefcase, so tune in. Just like he was in the Royal Rumble, he'll have like a few highlights but not win. If Logan Paul wins Money in the Bank, I'm going to be livid. This is not cool whatsoever at all. I don't care what marketing strategy they have. This is completely wrong. And you are going to bury a guy like Damian Priest or LA Knight or somebody else who needs this opportunity just to put the briefcase on Logan Paul so he can take it on his little impulsive podcast.
Not so
it's
fast,
baloney.
My friend. Not
it's
so
baloney.
fast. Not so fast, my friend. I'm a Lee Corso you right here. Not gonna happen, man. Not gonna happen. Listen, man. Listen. I was surprised too. I thought that the WWE was done with this guy after WrestleMania. I thought they were done. I should have known that they weren't. Listen. It's not going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. You got the grumpy old fans' approval here. And I will say this too. If he does win that match and he does win the Money in the Bank briefcase, I am going to be angry as well too. Maybe not in the same reasons as you are, but I would much rather him, if it were to happen, which it won't, I would much rather him have the Money in the Bank briefcase than the World Heavyweight Championship. Because we all know what happens putting world championships on guys who don't wrestle.
Well, that's another thing. Like, if he wins the briefcase, one or two things happens. Either A, he wins the world heavyweight title and now he's gone with the world heavyweight title. He's not defending it. Or two, they continue to lose the credibility of the Money in the Bank ladder match. I mean, how many times have we seen in recent years that the Money in the Bank winner for the men's doesn't successfully cash in? Last year, we had it cashed in on the United States Championship and lose. Like, this is the year with Triple H to reestablish the credibility of the Money in the Bank ladder match, and putting it on Logan Paul is not the answer.
I think it's a draw, man. I really think it's going to be a draw. Like, a draw for the fans, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be a draw. Because I really don't see that happening. I really think that the WWE is going to get this right. I really would love to see LA Knight do it.
Yeah.
I would love to see LA Knight do it because honestly, he has the fan vote by a huge margin. And I like him. But there's stuff being said about LA Knight not being ready to lead in this legion of fans going for the title. Do I agree with that? Not really. I think LA Knight has a little bit more stuff to tweak out. You know, his persona is great. I love his persona. I think he's got a lot of star power. I think he has a lot of personality.
Charisma.
He gets over with these fans real good. And they like him.
Yeah.
I want to see a little more of him in the ring outside of the persona. I want to see more of him in the ring. I want to see more of LA Knight doing more in the ring. The persona's dope. And you have to have persona. You have to have charisma. You have to have that draw with the fans in order to get where you're going in this company. You do. But I want to see LA Knight perform in the ring a little more, and I think he's going to do great. but he has an excellent persona, and I
Yeah.
see him winning. He's
Yeah.
my favorite guy.
Yeah.
I love LA Knight. I do.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about him. He's cool, man. I love LA Knight. I think that they got this right with him.
Yeah.
Changing everything that he had from when he began beforehand, because they really didn't,
Max Dupree.
Yeah, they really didn't know what to do with him, and the Max Dupree thing was alright. It wasn't bad, but LA Knight he's killing it right now, and I think that's the one that you got to put it on, in my opinion. I like Dame real well, and the fact that he's the heel in this is really, really good. The heel promo that they had on SmackDown was great. I like that. They hate Dom with a passion, and I think it's hilarious. But
yeah,
I think that LA Knight, I think you have to do it. Logan Paul, to be honest with you, I think this is just a draw. I think it's a draw. I think it is. There's no way. There is no way. They may make it close, and I think he may perform well in the ring. But as far as giving him that Money in the Bank briefcase, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't.
I would hope not.
And I would hate it if they did. I would hate it.
It would be the wrong move for sure. Absolutely. And we'll get to talk a lot more about Money in the Bank next week when we preview the episode. We'll be previewing AEW's Forbidden Door, their clash with New Japan here in a couple minutes. But we'd be remiss without saying Money in the Bank is really synonymous with Edge. And tomorrow marks the 25th anniversary of Edge's debut in 1998. He has honestly debuted almost as long as I've been alive. Well, no, he beat me by a couple months, I guess. Oh, wow. Okay. But my favorite moment of Edge's 25th career or 25-year career, even though he had a few years where he was down with a neck injury, it's between two. And I'm going to ask you yours. One of them is Money in the Bank. Like, that was the first ever WrestleMania I watched. He won the first ever Money in the Bank. He made it what it was.
Yes.
And then the second one is obviously his return. I watched the video back before recording this episode, and just thinking of the goosebumps, like going from 9 years of, hey, I'm being told I have to retire, and then to come back. That's why when people say wrestling's fake, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, because that moment was real and it happened. And I still get goosebumps when I think about Edge's return. So those are the top two for me. What's yours real quick before we get in the Forbidden Door?
Now, I remember Edge's very first match. He wrestled the guy from Los Boricuas with Savio Vega's his faction there. Savio Vega bringing the Puerto Rican faction into the WWE. My Edge moment, and I've got 3 of them, to be honest with you, because I watched a lot of Edge. I remember when Edge first began in the WWE. His first match was probably one of my favorite Edge moments, because I really thought from the first match that he had, he was going to be incredible. That very first match.
And he was.
And he very much was, man. His very first match. My second moment, when Edge joined the Brood.
Ooh.
That was my second favorite moment, when Edge joined the Brood. But my favorite Edge moment, and I got to say my favorite one, has to be when Edge's character became serious and he won the Intercontinental Championship for the very first time on July 24th, 1999, beating Jeff Jarrett.
Wow.
I think that's got to be my favorite one, because I remember watching that match, and Jeff Jarrett was the biggest heel in WWE at that time, and Edge's face turn was confirmed when he won that championship, and that was the beginning of Edge being a serious singles competitor.
And he's one of my favorites, if not my favorite right now. Just like, again, that connection from WrestleMania 21, and thinking like you named moments that were all in like the first 2-3 years of him debuting, and how many more he had for the next 23. I mean, Ones we didn't even mention was him shaving Kurt Angle's head. His backstage segments with Kurt Angle. Him win the WWE title at New Year's Revolution 2006. Him celebrating with Lita the night after. Him spearing Mick Foley through a flaming table at WrestleMania 22. Him win the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania, or retaining it against Alberto Del Rio, his first singles WrestleMania win.
And he never lost that title either.
He never lost that title.
Never lost that title. We can go in with his last match at WrestleMania with The Undertaker before the first retirement. You can go to the very first TLC match when he was with Christian. You can go with...
He revolutionized everything.
Absolutely.
TLC's ladder matches, Money in the Bank.
Absolutely.
Synonymous with the World Heavyweight title. I mean, with the on-screen relationships with Lita, Vicky Guerrero, like he did it all. And it's going to be sad when he retires, which probably is this year. But, man, I'm so glad he's going to get to end it on his terms.
And the thing with Edge, that I think is very, very remarkable, holding more titles than any WWE superstar of all time has got to be a big accomplishment. And that's just an ode. And Edge did that before he retired the first time. So him just going back and elevating guys like Dom, Dame Priest, Finn Balor, those guys doing great matches still. You know, that WrestleMania match with Finn Balor was incredible. Even though Finn split his head, it just shows you the limits that Edge has, and that's none.
None whatsoever. And there's no limits this Sunday when AEW New Japan partner for the Forbidden Door. There's only 4 matches scheduled, so that shouldn't be too bad to fit into the last 10 minutes of the podcast episode. One of the ones I'm most excited for is one of the first ones they announced was Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay for the IWGP US Heavyweight title. This is a rematch from their Wrestle Kingdom match. And I went on record, I might have been a couple weeks ago when I mentioned this to you, like they had and still have match of the year right now at Wrestle Kingdom. Can they best it in front of an American audience with this Forbidden Door this Sunday?
It's going to be very, very hard, but to be honest with you, I think they come very, very close. Now, this is my opinion here, but I think that Kenny's going to drop the title. I think Will Ospreay is going to get that title. I think it's time for a push for Will Ospreay to go for that championship at one point in time, go for that IWGP. And I think that him winning the U.S. title is going to be a stepping stone, because that U.S. title was a stepping stone for Kenny Omega when he was going for the championship. And him winning that title, and of course him elevating Switchblade Jay White when he had the U.S. title, and him wanting Switchblade to join Bullet Club, and that didn't happen, and he ended up beating Kenny for the championship. I think that's going to be an upgrade. That was an upgrade for Jay. I think Kenny's going to hold out his hand for somebody like Will Ospreay, and he's going to put on a wonderful match with Will, and I think Will's going to beat him. But I think they've got some tricks in this match here. They're not just going to put this match in front of an American audience and it fall under 4 stars. Ain't no way.
Well, also, when Omega beat Ospreay on January 4th, or maybe it was the 3rd since it's a 2-night event now, that was the point. It was like, okay, Omega beats Ospreay. We're going to get the rematch where Ospreay beats Omega.
Yes.
And it seems very fitting that it'd be at Forbidden Door, but I'm so excited for those guys to tangle up. And one of the matches that's fallen a little under the radar is Sonata versus Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
And people are like, why would you have Jungle Boy wrestle Sonata? Like, why would you, like, there's so many other AEW guys that you could have wrestle for New Japan's richest prize. I have a feeling they're just trying to elevate Jungle Boy.
Yes.
Because they looked at the 4 Pillars match with MJF, Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and they probably realize they haven't put a lot into Jungle Boy yet. He was in Jurassic Express. He was under Christian's tutelage. He had some matches with Christian, Luchasaurus, but he just hasn't had something to sink his teeth into. Sammy Guevara has been there with the Jericho Appreciation Society, Inner Circle. Darby had CM Punk's first match back in the ring, MJF's current world champion. This is a moment for Jungle Boy to stand out. Yes. And I'm really excited to see that.
I think it's going to be a very underrated match as well, too, because Sonata has been a very underrated wrestler because he's had so many shadows cast before him. One thing about Sonata is he has to wrestle under the shadow of Kazuchika Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi in Japan, of all places, where both of those men are pretty much like the kings of that country when it comes down to wrestling, and probably the kings of wrestling as we speak. So Sonata, and them putting the title on Sonata says what New Japan is trying to let the world know, that they're not just going to rely on their older guys to hold championships. They want to elevate their new talent. And Sonata is a guy that has kind of fell under those shadows because those are big men that you're going with. And of course, he's doing a great job with that championship. He's doing a wonderful job in the ring. He's very polarizing, very exciting. I think it's a great matchup with Jungle Boy. I think it's great.
I don't think Sonata drops this to Jungle Boy. It's just to elevate them.
No.
And in similar fashion, MJF is not dropping his championship when he defends against Hiroshi Tanahashi, which sign me up. MJF,
oh man,
MJF gets knocked for not being a good wrestler, and I hope like the Iron Man match with Bryan Danielson or like this one or that one, like his match with Adam Cole, that he's starting to chip away at that reputation.
Yes,
and I feel like him getting in the ring with a talent such as Tanahashi and hanging in there is going to almost dissipate those rumors or those critics like MJF isn't good in the ring, because he really is. He's not going to do like the 630 sentons. He's not going to do all this stuff, but he's very smart and very calculated with every move he does, how he does it, and how he sells everything. And that's what makes his character.
And the thing about Tanahashi that really excites me as well is that Tanahashi is a very versatile wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
He can be a high flyer. He has great ground offense. He can sell the match real well. But with him being such a large face in Japan, him being such a fan favorite in Japan, you're going to get that heel face like you've never seen before, because turning Hiroshi Tanahashi heel in Japan is not going to happen. Turning him heel anywhere is probably not going to happen because he's such a wonderful face. He is a great performer. He wrestles like a face better than any wrestler probably in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And having someone as polarizing as MJF in the ring with someone who is just loved throughout wrestling is the perfect parallel.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect, man. I mean, I really don't see anybody else matching up with MJF better than Hiroshi Tanahashi with personality-wise. I don't see it.
They're going to be able to work that crowd, and it's so hard to like pick what's going to steal the show, because I mean, any of these matches could probably steal the show on any other night.
Oh yeah. Any main event. They could be main events anywhere.
And we haven't even mentioned the dream match for the first time ever, Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. Like we didn't even get to that.
The Rainmaker.
Shannon. That's the one match where I'm like, all the other winners are obvious.
But this one's not.
This is a toss-up. This is like 50-50.
This one's not.
Who's winning this match between Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada?
I mean, I can make an argument for both. We know the obvious face is going to be Kazuchika Okada. We all know that's the obvious face. the heel work that Bryan Danielson is doing right now in AEW is very, very good. I mean, MJF's heel work is better than anybody right now in the world. I think he's the best heel of all of wrestling right now. But Bryan Danielson has got to be somewhere in that 10. He's got to be in that top 10 somewhere. He's got to be in there. But Kazuchika Okada is the obvious face. And I think that you got to give it to the face in this one here. I think you do. It's going to be an incredible match because Bryan Danielson can go. And he's proven that he can go. And Kazuchika Okada, who better to see to be the measuring stick of how well you can go as a wrestler than Kazuchika Okada, who's wrestled hours on end.
Yeah.
Why not? So, you wanna see how great you are? We've got Kazuchika Okada right here. Find out. Let's see.
It's going to be the best in the worlds right there. Yes. And this ain't CM Punk anymore. No offense to CM Punk. This is top notch. And there's only 4 matches announced on the card right now. And I was like, why would you do that just days away from the pay-per-view? Like, obviously, we'll get some more tonight. But I'm expecting one of these matches to go 45 minutes minimum. Yes. Maybe even 60. And don't know if it's Danielson Okada. Don't know if it's Omega Ospreay. Don't know if it's MJF Tanahashi. It's going to be one of those. But are there any matches you like hope to get announced tonight on Dynamite or even Saturday's Collision?
Well, I had 3 that I thought would be really, really great, but now it's turned to 4. Okay. So we haven't really said anything about a tag match. So I think I got a really, really good one. FTR versus Tongaloa and Tama Tonga.
Oh, yes.
You got to add the Bullet Club in there. You got to add the Bullet Club in there. And I think that I love Tongaloa. I love Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga being one of the founders of Bullet Club. The great, rich wrestling background that they have. Tongans, the great Ming as their father. That's Haku Ming, whatever you want to call him. Great wrestler. You know, these two are wonderful in the ring as well. And of course, you got that FTR in there, probably as the tag team champion. I was going to put them with Hiroki Goto and his tag team partner. But that'd be title versus title. I don't want to do that. I don't think so. The next one would be, of course, another Uwansa Bullet Club, David Finlay versus Adam Page.
Okay.
I think David Finlay to me is kind of a weird leader of Bullet Club. He's so different. I don't really like David Finlay as a leader of Bullet Club. I really don't. But you got to look at it too. You know, David Finlay's had a lot of people casting shadows on him with Kenny Omega, with Prince Devitt, with AJ Styles leading Bullet Club. You know, it's kind of tough for him to equate that. It's very tough to do. I think he's doing a good job. Could he do better? Probably so, but he's got a pretty good supporting cast around him. Not the cast that Kenny and AJ and all of them had, but it's not bad, you know. And Orange Cassidy versus Kota Ibushi.
I don't know. I think we're getting Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Oh, that would be great too as well. But I would like to see him against Kota Ibushi. I really think that Kota Ibushi is going to AEW very, very soon. I think he's going to go because he's a free agent right now. But why not have him be a Forbidden Door, show what he's got going to AEW? But Zack Sabre Jr. and Orange Cassidy is going to be good. But I'd like to see him against Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, I don't know if they've announced Sabre Jr. versus Cassidy, but I remember it was last week's Dynamite where Cassidy had a segment. Sabre Jr. interrupted it.
Yeah,
challenged,
that's right.
But didn't make it official. And then Dane Garcia interrupted.
Right.
So I would. It's not official yet, but I think that could steal the show. There's so much that could happen this Sunday night at Forbidden Door. Shannon, it looks like we are close to out of time. We'll get out of here, let you guys continue your Wrestling Wednesday card. I also have a Panther podcast. Ryan and I are back this week with the Cat Cave, a Carolina Panther podcast. on the Keep Pound Podcast Network, powered by the Fans First Sports Network and the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. Go look that up. Watch it. Also, Out Pocket with Michael Davis, Friday, live at 4. The NBA draft is tomorrow night, so we will have a lot to talk about live Friday afternoon on your way home from work. It's going to be a really good episode. And then next week, drop the mic, recapping Forbidden Door. It's going to be a great show. And then recapping or previewing Money in the Bank, the Bloodline Civil War, Logan Paul not winning Money in the Bank, and Matt not hosting my own show on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. So that'll be all a good time. Shannon, thank you so much for hopping in today. It's always a pleasure.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Everybody, tune into all the other content. Subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel so you don't miss anything. And whatever you do, don't drop the mic. We will see you back on the Wrestling Podcast next week.
If the